Maybe like lead? I don't know.
Iron? Maybe.
When you think about metals, you might think of large sheets of steel, your cars, or underground mines.
These examples are just some of the ways that metals exist in our everyday lives. Metals are a diverse group of elements.
The term heavy metals originally referred to dense, toxic metals, such as lead or mercury. Over time, the term has become broader. Now it can refer to lighter metals like scandium and metalloids like arsenic as well. While there is still disagreement in the scientific community about which elements are classified as heavy metals, the term is useful for categorizing metals that are environmental and health hazards. When heavy metals enter the body, they disrupt your body's natural, neurological, and biological functions. Heavy metals can also damage your cells, causing cell death and increasing the incidence of cancer cells. The health outcomes of heavy metal exposure vary from metal to metal. Some heavy metals, like mercury and lead, can cause damage to the brain and heart. Other heavy metals, like copper, zinc, and chromium, primarily cause damage to other organs, such as your liver or kidneys. You should look out for general health outcomes that may indicate heavy metal exposure. These can include minor outcomes such as weakness, nausea or numbness, and major outcomes like an irregular heartbeat, difficulty breathing, brain damage, memory loss, or organ damage. Heavy metal poisoning occurs due to exposure to large doses of heavy metals. If left untreated, heavy metal poisoning from certain metals, for example, arsenic or cadmium, can result in various cancers.
There are many sources of heavy metals. They exist in soil, water, and air, and in industrial, cosmetic, and agricultural products. The many sources of heavy metals mean that they enter the body in many ways.
Heavy metals are often very soluble in water and can easily contaminate sources of drinking water. They can also be taken up by the roots of plants, leading to heavy metal poisoning from food. The heavy metals that most commonly cause adverse health effects in humans are lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic. These metals can accumulate in indoor spaces.
People spend an average 95% of their time indoors, so understanding where these metals come from and how you can reduce your risk of exposure is important for your health.
Sources of heavy metals in indoor spaces include heavy metals in water, materials, vapors, and dust. Indoor lead primarily comes from lead paint. Lead paint can be ingested or chip off of surfaces and be inhaled in dust form. Indoor lead can also come from water sourced from lead pipes. Indoor mercury comes from vapor released from broken thermostats or fluorescent lights. Cadmium in indoor spaces comes from colored paints and PVC used in pipes and window frames. Arsenic can be found in pressure-treated wood used in decks. Prior to 2004, arsenic was often used in the treatment process of wood and can leach into the environment. Lead, mercury, and arsenic are all also present in fly ash.
Fly ash, which is full of lots of heavy metals. The top of the list, mercury, lead, and cadmium, is used more than you might think. It's used in the backing of carpet and flooring. It can even be used in other sort of interior products. And then probably the biggest use of fly ash comes in with concrete.
While many heavy metals have been phased out of building materials as we've learned more about their toxic effects, fly ash is still commonly used. Construction workers and manufacturers are at an especially high risk of exposure to many heavy metals in building materials. When concrete containing fly ash is broken down during construction projects or from erosion, anyone in the ambient environment may be exposed to particulate heavy metals.
All these sources combined, the average person can be exposed to up to twice the EPA heavy metal environmental hazard level. It is important for consumers to reduce their heavy metal exposure, for themselves and for their families, particularly children.
Some Harvard affiliates live on campus with young children, so residential lead paint is a concern. Per Massachusetts law, contractors must remove lead paint hazards from buildings constructed before 1978. This includes chipped lead paint and lead paint on surfaces accessible to children, like windowsills. Contractors should use test kits to identify the presence of lead. For replacing these paint hazards, household paints must now contain less than 90 parts per million of lead.
To minimize heavy metal exposure from fly ash-produced concrete, contractors should consider alternative concrete.
Safer concrete can be made with naturally occurring clay or limestone instead of fly ash. Harvard is also an innovator in utilizing alternative components in concrete.
The work that I and my team do in saying how do we translate the research and science into practice that not just work at Harvard and make it work at scale. We just poured the first in Massachusetts that we know of ground glass pozzolan concrete. So replacing the fly ash with recycled glass essentially. And we've just poured that into the foundations and other key parts of our Treehouse Conference Center project that is being built in Alston.
Arsenic-treated wood can be replaced with options such as wood alternatives, composites, and naturally pest-resistant woods. Mercury exposure from household products like light bulbs and thermostats also pose a risk if the item breaks. Work to remove mercury-containing products should proceed with caution to avoid exposures. Transitioning to LED lights and electromechanical or digital thermostats is a simple alternative solution. In summary, heavy metals pose an ongoing risk to human health. Heavy metals can disrupt your nervous system and increase your risk of cancer if exposed. Lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic are unfortunately common in indoor built environments, but there are ways to minimize your risk of exposure.
By using alternative products during construction, Harvard is creating a safer environment for its faculty, students, staff, and the greater community. By helping Harvard with this mission, you will be ensuring that the Harvard community reduces its risk of dangerous exposure to heavy metals.